Now I see this question everywhere, you know, I want to get into breeding crested geckos, I want to breed my own crested geckos, but where do I start? What do I need to learn? You know, what should I research before breeding? This question almost pops up once every week on Facebook groups and stuff equivalent to that, even a couple of comments I've gotten on, you know, breeding crested geckos and how to do it. So today I thought I'd make this... Where are you going? Today I thought I'd make a video going over the 6 main things you should know before breeding crested geckos. Let's check it out. Number 1, and this thing should really just be common sense, but how to take care of crested geckos. Of course, if you want to get into the breeding and reproducing of crested geckos, it is important to know how to take care of them, obviously. I always recommend for people that wanting to get into breeding crested geckos, or really any reptile for that matter, is at least own one baby and grow that baby out from, you know, being a juvenile to an adult, so you really know how to take care of it for its entire life cycle. Honestly, I find it a little odd when people have no experience in that species whatsoever, have never taken care of one in their entire life, but all of a sudden they want to buy 2 and then breed them all of a sudden, you know, pretty much just to make money, which would be my consensus on it, because you don't even own the reptile, so how would you know, that's your passion if you've never owned one before? But where are you going, little one? I really believe just knowing the fact that, you know, the care of the baby crested geckos to an adult crestal is crucial information before trying to reproduce the species yourself. Number 2, how many eggs do they lay? Again, kind of common sense, but I think something that we should run by is, you know, how many eggs do these geckos produce with one pairing? Crested geckos can produce anywhere from 10 to 14 eggs per gecko per pairing. They do this in a fashion of laying a clutch of 2 eggs pretty much once per month during the breeding season. That usually starts anywhere from January, February, and then ending around the September-ish area. A lot of babies going from 2 crested geckos to then 16 crested geckos if you get 100% hatch rate is a pretty big step, and if you don't have all those enclosures ready to go and ready to utilize as soon as those babies hatch, you're gonna have a pretty hard time. It's always important to get an approximate of how many eggs you're going to get. Things like bearded dragons, tegus like that, anywhere 20 to 30 eggs. If you're not expecting that, or even crested geckos, you know, 14 eggs for just one clutch is a pretty significant amount, and if you don't have all 14 tubs of those ready, all 14 dishes to feed, enough food for 14 to 16 animals, it's gonna be an issue. Then going on to number 3, know the genetics of the animals you're reproducing. Are you gonna jump? Guess not. Now I know I'm gonna get a comment in the comment section, Dakota, crested geckos are polymorphic, so you can't understand the genetics, they always happen randomly. No, that's not true. Well, that's not fully true. It is known that crested geckos are polymorphic, but that doesn't mean they do not follow the Mendelian genetics, which means that we can get a roughly educated guess on what's going to pop out of that egg. Although there are some pairings that are really unknown or how the genetics work, there are ones that do, and it's important to learn that those genetics and really how they work in order to successfully breed these projects. Some good examples are, number 1, Dalmatian and Super Dalmatian. Dalmatian seems to be a dominant trait. You can see Pebbles here is a nice little Dalmatian. She has spots all over. If I were to pair anything with Pebbles, whether that be a lavender, tricolor, quad stripe, super stripe, harlequin, anything like that, that animal is going to end up with spots on it due to the fact that this gene being a dominant trait. Another solid example is things like Harlequin. Harlequin seems to be a dominant trait as well, so if you were to breed it to say a bicolor, a buckskin, a patternless to a Harlequin, you would end up with mostly Harlequins. Then we can go up into the more high valuable traits such as Axanthic and Lily Whites. Axanthic seems to be a recessive trait, so that means that when you produce an Axanthic to say Pebbles here, which does not have Axanthic in her blood, then you would get pretty much animals that are het for Axanthic. At that point you could pair that animal back to the Axanthic to get visual through line breeding, or however just pair a het to a het to get a percentage of that visual trait of Axanthic. It sounds a little complicated, but you know, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. But so, yep, number 3, genetics. And kind of a good transition point from number 3 is going to be number 4, know the market of crested geckos. This can be helpful in a multitude of different ways. Not only are you going to be able to get an educated guess on the babies that you are going to get, how you can sell those, you know, stuff like Pebbles, a Dalmatian here, pairing her to another Dalmatian, I'm not going to make $600 babies out of them. I know that going in, you know, anything like her, I would get maybe like 75 to 150 depending on how good of a male I paired her with. No, Pebbles is an adorable gecko. I mean, just look at that face. Look at how adorable this face is. But just understanding the Crested Gecko market, I know that Pebbles really isn't a high dollar breeder, or wouldn't be to produce these, again, high dollar babies. Not only will understanding the market of Crested Geckos help you in determining just an educated guess. Again, people call it snake math. Pretty much, you know, you never know what you're really gonna get until it hatches out, but this is just kind of a quick little calculator guess, I would say. But it's not only gonna help you with that, it can understand, or it can help you understand, you know, how much you're really gonna spend on the breeders that you're going to buy. A great example of not understanding the market is a couple of days ago in a Facebook group where I saw someone slam a breeder for being kind of rude to her. And although, you know, the guy was pretty rude, it was an understandable case. This guy had a couple of lily whites that he was selling, a female, I believe either two females or it was a pair. And this girl wanted $1,200 for the pair. And we're talking about pure lily whites. I think they were like lily white morphs. There might have been like a cream lily white or a Dalmatian, something like that. It was pretty much a lily white combo, as you would say, and this person thought that the value of those animals was $600 each. Nope. You kind of just look silly to people that you got scorched in the comment section. Really, you know, don't slam a dude because you're trying to lowball him. I mean, come on, that's kind of lame. But again, you can help avoid those cases by, again, understanding the market and what these animals are worth in that market. Good climbing skills, man. Nice. Now, speaking of market, let's get into number 5. How unbelievably oversaturated the Crested Gecko market is. Coming into 2020, it seems pretty much everyone and their I mean, honestly, I don't know which one's more oversaturated. It's like it's a side by side. The Crested Geckos or ball pythons. Who breeds the most? Or animal that's the. Now, it's definitely something you want to be aware of and prepared for. Though you're producing these babies, you know, though they look amazing to you, and you spend all these times breeding this animal, incubating the eggs for that 90 to 120 days, and now you have these amazing babies that you hatched yourself. Here's the problem. Again, everyone breeds these animals, and to go into more detail about that, most people breed these animals as a side little hobby, nothing like a business. You run into real issues with that thinking about it in a business or marketing standpoint, and the fact that if everyone's doing it and there's really no financial way on what they're doing, it crashes the market because now everyone's just selling these animals for, I mean, nothing. We're talking like $20 to $30 for a Crested Gecko baby. It costs more to feed just one gecko than people are selling their babies for. I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous, I'll be honest. It's not to say everyone's taking that standpoint of just selling babies for dirt cheap just because they can. It just so happens that the market is just so oversaturated with people that kind of just want the experience of breeding that they're not doing the back research behind that. You're pretty much just getting someone that buys 2 animals from a Petco and breeds them together, something like a buckskin and a harlequin, a very broken, low-quality harlequin, and then you're just getting low-quality animals that just have bad head structure, such as Pebbles right here, which is why she's not a breeder. It's just stuff like that where it creates a problem. You know, you have these weird genetics with bad structure, no lineage, and they're just being shoved in the market for $20. Not everyone, of course. There are some great companies: Pangea, Altitude Exotics, Tiki's Geckos, Scaredy Cat Geckos. I'm just naming a few that come to the top of my head. They sell their animals for a pretty high dollar because they have one thing that a lot of people don't, and that is reputation. Now, of course, that's something you can gain over time, but at the very beginning, when you're just starting out, especially if you have no social media presence behind you, and you're just, you know, LBD Exotics, LBD Gecko, something like that, no one knows who you are, and you kind of go into that bracket between the dudes that are breeding, you know, $20 geckos. So to summarize that whole rant, be prepared for when you're breeding Crested Geckos. You're gonna have to hold on to them your first couple of years. You're gonna have a hard time selling because there is a flooded of, I wanna say, at least tens of thousands of people breeding these, and you're gonna be in competition from the ground floor up. But Dakota, isn't there some way I can make my geckos and my babies stand out than the regular people selling just $20 Petco babies? Yes, there is, and I believe it's a great transition to number 6, Lineage. I'm gonna clump structure in there as well. Lineage, structure. Let's get to it. Now, what is Lineage? Lineage is basically the family tree for breeding projects. So you know that where this baby came from this mom to this dad. That dad came from that granddad, that grandma. This gal came from that dad and that grandma, granddad. Damn it. It's basically a family tree, and with that, you know exactly, what the parents are gonna look like, especially with always at the end of the videos. I can't seem to get the words at the end of videos. Especially when it comes to polymorphic traits like crested geckos, having an understanding of what the grandparents, the parents, and the baby looks like, to even go further, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. Some people go crazy and have a large lineage for these animals, but you're going to have a better understanding of how that genes are gonna work, knowing, what the ancestors of this animal looked like. Genes can be a pretty tricky thing with crested geckos. I paired Superdell to Superdell, some nice high quality, some ink blots, red spots, things like that, and produced some pretty low quality looking babies. I mean, we're talking about these animals have 300 dots combined with both parents, and it produces an animal that has 12 spots. Now, in any other case, that animal would go for a little amount of money just because of the fact that it looks not that good. A couple of dots, really nothing to cry about. I mean, Pebbles has more dots than that. This animal really isn't worth much in people's eyes at first glance. But having that lineage behind it, you know that the parents of that morph came from a lot of spots. Therefore, breeding that animal to the next, you can have a better chance of hitting those spots, of a lot of spots. Dalmatians, it's a lot of spots. Lineage is good. That's what we're gonna end it with. Structure is another fantastic thing to talk about. I think not a lot of people are paying close attention. That really comes from an oversaturation market, is people kind of just look at, what's the coolest color I can get? I want those tiger stripes. I want those dowel spots. I don't care what the head looks like. And then they produce animals with this tiny little kite-shaped head. This is a great example of what low structure looks like. The favorable trait for crested geckos is what we call the floppy crest. Big ass crests that just hang down, the little spiky things flop down, hence floppy crest. There's big, large-headed, large crest animals is the favorable trait when it comes to structure in crested geckos. And even if you're bringing to the table some animals that may not have a lot of spots, may not have that full pin, may not have those full sides as a harlequin, you can get more money from that animal for the fact that they have a bigger, healthier crest. What do you think, Pebbles? Is that a good wrapping point? I think we got information. What do you say? What's your opinion on this? You heard it here, folks. There you have it, 6 things you need to know before breeding crested geckos. But now it's your turn. Leave me a comment in the comment section on one tip you would give people just getting into breeding of crested geckos. And as always, if you liked the video, please feel free to give us a thumbs up. If you want to see some more of my animals or my breeding products, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, DBCB Exotics. We are also on TikTok. Like some cool merch like this. I can never get it in the shot because of the way that the camera crops. Pretty cool stuff. We also have this design and this design. You can see that at teespring.com/DBCB down there in the description. Want to see some cool animals for the first time ever before anyone else? Maybe get first dibs on some of my projects like crested geckos. Someone like these babies right here. You can find that all at patreon.com for as little as $1 a month. I have that link also in the description. We've got Discord down there too. Go check it out. Was there anything else? Oh, I hope you have a great day.